Good morning, my name is Mr. Ford, and today we're going to talk about proper care and handling of your cameras. It's important to remember that your video equipment is your bread and butter. This is how you're going to make your money, whether you're working in film, television, or just making videos for YouTube, which most of you probably will. Unpacking is really simple. You unzip it, everything should be packed away properly. In this case, we have one of our cameras sitting inside, and we remove it carefully. So remember, this is your most prized possession when you're working in video production. We're going to take what's called the boot off of the tripod. We're going to connect that to the bottom of the camera. If you look on the bottom here, you'll see there's a screw hole that's a mount for this, and there's also on the boot itself there's an arrow that says lens. So when placing this on, you just gently tighten the screw, because you don't want to strip out the threads on the camera. And you tighten the screw part, the thumb screw, and then there's another part right here that you tighten just so that it's snug, so that it stays secure. Then when placing it on the tripod, you just press down until it locks in place. And that's all there is to it for unpacking. The other things you need to be aware of is you want to make sure that your cords aren't running across areas where people can trip on them or knock the camera over or hurt themselves. But now we're going to get into the most important part of your training, and this is what you do every single time you shoot. And before you learn about what the proper things to do are, how to edit a video, you have to know how to care for the equipment. And the one time when equipment gets broken most often is at the end of a shoot. After 10 or 12 hours of a shoot, or even just 4, you're eager to get editing, maybe even get home and get something to eat or go to sleep. So people tend to rush and just throw everything into the bag. Well, that's the difference between being a professional and an amateur. So there's just a few things to remember. So you remove it from the tripod, and here's where a lot of kids make their mistakes. They'll just take the camera, leave the boot on the camera, and put it in the bag. What happens is, if something happens to this camera or it gets replaced or surplus, a lot of times this boot will still be attached. Without a mounting boot, your tripod is useless. And the tripods, in some cases, can be almost expensive as the camera. So you remove the boot, and you place this back on the tripod. The boot has to stay with the tripod so that it never gets separated and never gets lost. You take your camera, and this is up to you. You can leave the card in if you like, so that you can keep track of which camera it goes to. And carefully place it back into the bag. And then you take your cords and you wind those up and you put them back in also. It seems silly, but I've seen so much equipment damage at the end of a shoot. And then you go to shoot your next video, and equipment is missing or damaged. And any professional will tell you, how you put your equipment away makes the difference between a professional and an amateur. Okay, that's it for this lesson.